So by the time you are seeing this video, my video about racism against Indians online will be about 2 weeks old. And I actually meant to respond to the reaction to this video probably like straight away, but then that Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro thing all kicked off. So I've been covering that instead. But I did just want to talk about this as a little follow-up video, and that is they, meaning conservatives, have gone more insane about Indian immigration in America because Trump has been defending the H1B visa. And this goes in line with a lot of stuff Trump's been saying recently, promoting like 50-year mortgages. Ben Shapiro was also getting loads of pushback for saying, if you can't afford where you grew up, just move. And what you're seeing online is the right wing are going basically crazy because they are not having a good time in this economy either, but they're just blaming the wrong things. And chief among them, in terms of being disproportionate to what their problems are, they are blaming Indian immigrants to America for loads of their problems. So I want to talk about all of this today, and I want to talk about some of the comments I got on my video, because sadly, I mean, I guess unsurprisingly, people come into the video and say shit like, oh yeah, like Indians deserve racial discrimination. And there's some weird arguments I've seen where like people have been saying, well, Indian society is actually quite racist itself. So if Indians get racially discriminated against when they come to the West, they kind of deserve it for how they have been back home. And I just want to point out the absurdity of saying that about absolutely massive landmass with so many different languages, ethnicities. It's so diverse. You cannot just paint over 1 billion people as the same thing. I also saw comments saying, well, Indians are racist to Muslims, so they deserve racism against them. And it just shows the total ignorance, because one of the biggest populations of Muslims in the entire world is in India. It's like 200 million Muslims live in India. If you're painting all 1 point something billion Indian people with the same brush, you're also including 200 million Muslims. And I guess that just points to the absurdity and lack of nuance when we even talk about India generally. And some other people were saying, well, make a video criticizing the Indian government. I've been doing that for like 5 or 6 years. You can go watch my old videos. I spoke about the Hindu nationalist love for Israel. I spoke about like Hindu fascism and everything like that. I've done that a lot on this channel. Doesn't mean I then go around and say, well, if you're an Indian Hindu, that means you deserve to be racially discriminated against because there are Hindus in India that are fascist, right? It makes absolutely no sense. And it's just like textbook racism. But somehow when it comes to this topic, people feel like even more emboldened than usual. So all of that coming up for you today. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Instagram, on Blue Sky. Like the video if you've liked my analysis after you've watched the video. Maybe subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel as well, check out YouTube memberships and check out my Patreon page. So let's go into the context for the recent conservative outrage. Like, this is literally today. You're probably watching this at the weekend, but it is Wednesday night. And Donald Trump has been defending the H1B visa, which has been in the discourse a lot because Donald Trump and Elon Musk have defended this. And basically why it has become contentious is that workers from other countries come to America and do like pretty highly skilled jobs in like the tech sector. Elon Musk's workers at like Twitter and Tesla often use these visas. And the criticism from the left, which I've seen plenty of, is what these visas allow people like Elon Musk to do in a country with terrible workers' rights anyway for American workers, as if you have people whose immigration status is tied to their employment, that gives you even more control over them. So people like Elon Musk would prefer an immigrant laborer because they have even less workers' rights than someone who is born in America. And that, again, is the criticism I've seen on the left. Not that, oh my God, Indians and people from other countries are coming over and stealing everyone's jobs. That there needs to be like a strengthening of employment law around people who come over to places like America and they work as an immigrant, rather than ban immigration and ban H1B visas. And also in the context of America as well, this visa isn't some sort of issue that means Americans are like losing all their jobs. Like, these jobs that these people come over to do on these visas often are really high skilled, and your average American is actually not getting these jobs. I do want to make a video about the outsourcing of like tech jobs to poorer countries, and even like dystopianly like cashier jobs, where I've seen videos of people in like the Philippines being a cashier through a webcam at somewhere in America. Like, I want to make a whole video on that because that is completely different. But anyway, Trump has been defending this.
There's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put you.
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
I'll
give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. You know, making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing. It's very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
So you can see why his base are going apeshit, basically saying, you know, American workers can't do these jobs, so you need to get people in from other countries. Now, H1B visas don't just cover people from India, of course, but because this has just become the stereotype because of people like Elon Musk defending it for his tech workers who often come from South Asian countries, that is what people tend to think. So the base on Twitter have been going absolutely apeshit and basically just talking about how it is importing loads of Indian laborers to the US and basically like, you know, white nationalist talking points. Now, in my other video, we also spoke about how Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, was also getting loads of racial discrimination from American conservatives. And this also goes with other prominent conservatives like Dinesh D'Souza, where loads of people are saying he's not American, and Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for the governor of Ohio. And every time he posts something, his replies are all flooded with people racially abusing him. And this also came as he was talking about the reaction to the Republicans doing so bad in the recent elections, including in New York. And again, Republicans are absolutely flooding his comments, just racially abusing him for being Indian. Now, Vivek is probably the most famous example of an Indian conservative in America who just gets this straight up to his face. Like, they were making jokes about him working at a 7-Eleven when he was running for president, and Coulter literally said to his face, I wouldn't vote for you because you're an Indian.
Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates. But I still would not have voted for you. Because you're an Indian.
But these people still think they'll be exempt from the white nationalist backlash. Yes, Donald Trump and Elon Musk don't mind Indians as workers because they see them in a certain way that I think is racist. But that doesn't mean the general base in America, especially when times are so hard for so many people, are going to be okay with this because immigrants always become scapegoats. And I spoke about this in the last video. And I talked about the different contexts with how the UK often views Indians. Like, not saying it's perfect, but I would say the way America and Canada is talking about Indian immigrants right now is how the UK talks about immigrants from Muslim countries. It doesn't actually matter. The same rhetoric around them destroying the culture, them not integrating, them stealing all the jobs. This goes for any immigrant group that becomes a scapegoat. Like, you guys know, if you followed me for a long time, all my grandparents were Irish immigrants to the UK, all came from kind of like different class backgrounds. Well, one of my grandparents came from a more middle class background. Two of my grandparents came from like a really working class background. And they all face like different types of discrimination when they came to the UK, especially my more working class family. And of course, it's the same shit that Indians get now in America. It's the same shit that Muslims get now in the UK. It's the same thing repackaged again and again. It's not the capitalist class ruining your life. It's not the capitalist class like ruining, like taking away your jobs or making your lives worse. It's actually those immigrants who are stealing your jobs. It literally is the most tried and true like meme from the conservative playbook that it's all the immigrants' fault. And the main sad thing is what you often see, a phenomenon in Western countries a lot more than others, is you have people who have immigrated or their families immigrated, the generations before them immigrated, and then they become super xenophobic to a different group of immigrants. And that happens with Irish people in America, of course. In the UK, it happens with loads of Indians who become members of the government and their parents migrated to the UK, and then they whip up xenophobia in the same vein of what their parents would have faced. And it's depressing, and it's just funny to me, the lack of self-preservation, because we live in white supremacist countries. Unlike Irish and Italians and other white groups who assimilated into whiteness, these people will never assimilate into whiteness properly enough for the racists to accept them. So while the racist elite might accept someone like Vivek, he just got Donald Trump's endorsement while he's running to be the governor of Ohio, that doesn't mean the base will accept them. Because when you whip up all this xenophobia and racism, as Ben Shapiro is finding out right now, them adding new groups to their categories of everyone they hate can happen pretty quickly. So I just want to talk about that a little bit with the surge on anti-Indian racism on the conservative right, but it's happening like absolutely everywhere. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the reaction to my video. So the reaction to my video, thankfully, was like, in terms of just people having a conversation in the comments, was pretty positive, but I did find myself like pretty regularly banning people because of just the insane racism they were leaving. Now, thankfully, I mean, I don't know this for sure because I don't see everyone's public subscriptions, but thankfully, I think most people weren't actually subscribed to me. But I want to read you some of the comments, and I just want to like talk about them because some people are talking about why it's actually okay to be racist against Indians. So here's one comment. Indians are celebrating the unaliving of Palestinian children all over the internet. And this goes in with a lot of the comments I saw that I don't care about racism against Indians because Indians hate Palestine or Indians hate Muslims. I'm going to extend this to people saying they don't care because Indians are racist against black people. So I've always defended Indians online, but they turn around and act racist towards blacks and Africans. Don't ask for any sympathy from me or my people. I find it hard to sympathize with a group that is notorious for being anti-black, racist, and virulent Islamophobia. Not much care for this since Indians themselves perpetuate hatred based on caste, race, and especially anti-blackness. I used to defend Indians on social media, actually, but the toxicity of online Indians, as well as the personal racism that I face from Indians, made me stop caring. Now I just think it's karma. This is India getting a dose of its own medicine. India, the country, has always been thuggish towards its neighbours because India likes to bully them. I'm obviously not speaking about Indians as a whole, but every Indian that I've personally met has been pretty rude, condescending, and racist. So what a lot of these people are doing is basically like textbook racism. If you take your anecdotal experience of like one-off interactions with people from a certain culture and then use that to say every single person from that culture or that country is actually bad, is just racism. If I'm being honest, all white Americans that I've met in my life have not been good people. And I would also say a lot of Irish people in my life that I've met are dicks as well. And I wouldn't use that experience to paint these countries' people all with one brush because I just don't think you can do that. The same way when people often go to Ireland as well, they think Irish people are the nicest people ever because they have that nice experience of maybe coming from a culture that isn't as friendly as Ireland. You go there and you're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And even if we're talking about Indians, right? Like everyone's saying there, oh, Indians I've met are rude, they're racist, they hate black people, they hate Muslims. All the Indians I've interacted with in my life have been super, super nice. One of my best friends is Indian. His family have always been like really great to me. He has loads of friends from like loads of different backgrounds. I guess that kind of happens with immigrant communities, especially South Asia as well. In the UK, like different cultures mixed together, like Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. And even his religion, he's not a Hindu, he's not a Muslim, he's not a Sikh. And they just all mix together. And we've been really good friends for a long time. And he has friends from like all over, like different cultures and everything, and different immigrant backgrounds in the UK. So if I then said, okay, I'm really good friends with this guy, therefore all Indians are great. You just can't base generalizations on anecdotal experience. But again, when we're talking about the conversation of nuance, for example, right? And even if we're talking about like India's relationship with African Americans, like Gandhi inspired the civil rights movement, right? Many civil rights movement leaders in America, especially before MLK, they went to visit Gandhi to ask about civil disobedience. Now, Gandhi said racist things about black people. And yes, Indian society having a racism problem against black people is something that is, of course, you should talk about and is something that is true. But, you know, America also has a racist problem against black people. Most people don't say every single white American, every single Indian American, every single Chinese American is actually racist against black people. You wouldn't say all of them are, even if you can recognize systemic problems or, you know, problems that haven't been addressed properly in societies like for example, America, with its history of racism against black people, it's just like not an argument that holds up. But then you take it to a country like India, which is just, you know, even calling it like one country seems a bit absurd at this point when you see there's territory in India that is run by communists and they can enact their own government programs on their territory. You have other places run by Sikhs. You obviously have the strongholds of Hindu fascists and stuff like that. It's such a diverse country. And like I said, you can't say, I'm glad Indians are getting racism done against them because they're not pro-Palestine and they hate Muslims, when there's 200 million Muslims who live in India. And yes, you can recognize the Hindu nationalist government is super discriminatory towards Muslims in India. At the same time, you can easily see the problems that saying that you do not know that Indian person's background. If you're seeing an Indian immigrant in your community, how the fuck do you know what background they are, what religion they are? You probably don't, because you haven't grown up in India. You haven't been around loads of Indian communities, so you won't be able to notice the difference. So how can you then go and say, oh yeah, all Indian people are actually racist against blacks and Muslims, therefore when like white nationalists abuse them on Twitter, they actually deserve it, right? It's an absurd line of thinking, and it's not left wing to think this because you're quoting it in, well, Indians aren't pro-Palestine. So I just wanted to address some of those points because it's depressing when you just have people in your comments saying, well, actually they deserve racism because an Indian person has been racist to me. And yeah, I'm sorry if that has happened to you. I'm sorry if you've seen the bad sides of a certain culture, but you just have to see the problems of painting all that culture with one brush and how that gets even more absurd when we're talking about one of the most diverse countries on the entire planet. And again, if you're saying Indians hate Muslims, 200 million people in India are Muslims. That is like more than the population of the whole UK. It's like 2/3 of the population of the US. It's just like an absurd statement. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify some points and kind of put like a little ending to my videos on this topic. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.